All right, so tonight is Wednesday, November 22nd. This is EdTech300, and yeah, this is our 12th class out of 13, which is kind of exciting. And I don't know if everyone can see this yet. I don't know if you would have had to update your Zoom, but if you go into the participants tab, you may have some extra things that you can do now. You might see at the bottom, yeah, Webster worked out. You can raise your hand now. You can say yes, no, go slower, go faster. Everyone's seeing that? There's more too. You can give thumbs up and down and I don't know, a coffee. I'm not sure why. Yeah, there we go. I got one coffee right now. Also, Zoom has added some fun new things. So one of them is that apparently now I can see if you don't have your Zoom window as the front window. So amazing. So much surveillance. Yeah. So if you only have raise hand, if you update Zoom, you should have it next time you go on. Not that that's going to do you much good right now, but anyway, they've added some swanky new features. I've also got polling now, so we can now have a poll. I'm gonna show you how exciting this is. Let's just take a look. Very exciting, I tell you. Except that seriously, my Chrome, I tell you what, my Chrome is dying. I don't know about anyone else, but my Chrome is just sad and so slow and it's terrible. And I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know if it heard me saying that I was gonna try Firefox or what, but it's been painful. So I don't know if anyone else is having the same experience, but it's like right now, trying to open a poll. Yeah, not gonna happen because this is crazy slow. Oh wait, here we go. Okay, finally. Yeah, anyway, it's a little ridiculous. So I can put a title in my poll, and then I can say, let's see, what's the best kind of, we working here? Come on, oh my God, it's so slow. Seriously, what's up with Chrome? Anyway, I have the option to do this, and it's kind of amazing. So now I have to offer you some questions. Hold on, it's coming. Don't worry. All right. So now I'm going to give you this amazing poll, and you're just all going to be super amazed. All right. Does everyone see my amazing poll? And if you're not sure what meat is as a type of pizza, neither am I, but it's a thing that happens here. So I'm really not sure, but it weirds me out. Yeah, it's Saskatchewan pizza, but it's not yeah, it's just weird. It's there's this much meat and it's funny and I don't understand it at all. And then it's it's underneath the cheese, so the meat gets kind of wet and soggy. It's not a thing. I'm sorry. It's not a thing. I don't like it. But fine, you all think it's good, whatever. So anyway, I've been trying Firefox and it's working well. And I see that we are very much split in our pizza types. So that's good. So that brings me to my next thing, which is, so next week, if you're able, we will be meeting in person. Sorry to Emily and others who are far away, but we are going to have pizza. And so one of the things that you'll see in the weekly plans is a pizza survey. So even if you're not in the city and you know that you're not going to be able to come, if you could just go in there and say that you're not going to come, that way I have accurate number counts. And then after, if you say you are going to come, then you get to vote on what kind of pizza you think should happen. And I will try to accommodate all of the different types of pizza as well, or as best as I can. So you get to choose, and one of the options is that meat thing. So, you've got some choices here. Obviously, we're getting the pineapple kind no matter what, but you know, we'll also get the other kinds. Yeah, inch thick layer of assorted meat. That's what it is, right? Like that's exactly what it is. So anyway, the location of class next week, if you're able to come in person, will be, it's like somewhere on the 6th floor of education. So yeah, that's kind of, I don't know, I've never been to the room, but just follow the room number and you'll find it, I guess. And if you're not able to come in person, you can just log in as usual online. So any questions about that or about any of the assignments or anything? Are we all good? Know what we're doing? Yes. Good. All right. Super duper. Excellent. Thanks, Josh. Thanks for that. I like it. I got to see some of you on Monday night in ECS 100. It was all very exciting. It's always nice to see familiar faces. All right. So if there are no questions about assignments, we are going to talk a little tonight about social media and like social justice and how those two things go together, and you know, activism online. So I'm just going to share my presentation once I find it. Hang on. Where are we? Excellent. Share screen. All right. Okay, so can you see my screen? Yes? Excellent. All right. Okay, here we go. All right, so I'm going to present, which is going to make it really hard for me to see anything else, but it's going to make it better. Okay, perfect. All right, you can still see my screen? We're good? You get the full screen experience? Yeah? Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so we're looking at how we can make the internet and the world a better place at the same time. And I don't know if anyone saw this or if anyone actually saw the stickers when they were put up, but this week, you know, I saw a little glimpse of what we can do with online because somebody sent me a picture of the sticker that was, or the stickers that were posted outside of education that said, "It's okay to be white." You saw me on the news. Was I actually, okay, I didn't know if I was actually on the news. I know that they interviewed me today. That's exciting. Look at that, I was on the news. Was I any good? Did I sound like an idiot? I'm not that famous. But so what happened is, I think that Brooklyn's not answering, so I assume that, oh, okay, good. Okay. I feel like the guy was like, wow, you're talking so much about this thing. But anyway, what happened was that I posted this picture of this sign that said, you know, it's okay to be white. And because they've been putting stickers up, which makes it really hard to get them off. And it's actually part of this like big effort across Canada and the US. And they are trying to basically, like, the idea behind it is that they wanted to put these stickers up so that then the left-wing media would get all well, we don't totally know. It was posted on 4chan, which is like the evil layer of the internet. And so it's a group of, I assume, alt-right people. It might be engineering students, but yeah, it's people who support kind of alt-right politics, like the Donald Trump fans of the world. And basically what they want to do is they want to, their idea was to get all of the left-wing media mad, and then all of the normies, as they call them, would basically, like, they were trying to bring them onto their side. So the people who are kind of middle of the road in terms of politics, they were hoping that the left-wing media would freak out and then say, like, oh my God, it's not okay to be white, which is not actually the point. But and then all of the people who are middle of the road would be like, oh my God, we have to join the alt-right. Not sure how well that's working for them, but it was interesting. I got like a lot of response on this post. And then this morning I woke up to like 15 messages from CTV being like, hey, can we interview about this? So yeah, so that was something, I mean, I put it online. I wasn't sure what would happen. I didn't actually get any really negative comments. But I think that has to do with the people I'm friends with on Facebook. But anyway, it was, I guess I raised some awareness, which is kind of the point of, putting things online that relate to, social justice causes. So that being said, yeah, I don't know who they are. I mean, you would assume that they'd have footage of this because it happened right outside of a building, but I'm not sure what campus security has seen or not seen. But there you go. Bring your Sharpie to school just in case you see another one of these stupid stickers. Okay, so what do these things all mean? Who knows what these particular hashtags are? There's okay, yes, social justice. Does anyone know specifically what these mean? And you can grab the mic if you want. You know any of them? Haven't heard of the top two.
I'm going to say I think it's generally regarding the men who've been accused of sexually assaulting women.
Mm-hmm. So that the first one, yeah, the Me Too one comes out of that, right? That all of these men who have been accused of sexually assaulting women, and basically it's the people saying like, yes, I've also experienced this. Liz, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the first one is like, as she said, was about women who are sexually assaulted saying like, yeah, I'm not, like, you're not alone, like it happens to, like it's happened a lot more. Yes, all women. I forget what brought it about, but it's like just saying that like all women, like if I don't really remember that one, but Black Lives Matter, it happened with the shooting. I know that one. And it's about how police brutality towards Black people, and just kind of that one. And then I don't know more is about Indigenous people here in Canada. And I'm not sure if it ties into at all the missing and murdered Aboriginal women, but those are like, but it's like, it just talks about the injustices Indigenous people face in Canada.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, so the I don't know more, I mean, it predates the missing and murdered Indigenous women, but it was kind of the start of a lot of the campaigns around raising awareness about the injustices done towards Indigenous people, as you said, right? So the Yes All Women one was like last year or 2 years ago maybe, and basically what happened there was a guy in California who shot, he went onto a college campus and shot a bunch of women because nobody wanted to date him. Like, this is what he said, this is not me making it up. And basically decided like to go and shoot women because they didn't want to, be involved with him, right? And then it was people, it was kind of similar to Me Too, right? Like it was the idea that yes, all women deal with various forms of sexual harassment. So yeah, I think we've got them mostly covered. So these are all hashtags that became fairly famous and are about particular social justice movements. So we need to think, I think, a little bit quickly, what is activism, right? So like, if you're looking for just kind of general activism, basically the idea is efforts that promote or like they're trying to direct social change or political change to make improvements in society, right? So that's kind of your general activism definition. And in the past, so forms of activism might have been things like writing letters, going to a boycotting, going to like a hunger strike, things like that, right? So they were like, it used to be that activism was a lot more involved. Like you had to do a lot more to kind of be engaged in activism. Then you got internet activism, right? So this is kind of, this is the, I don't know, at times it seems like the lazy person's activism. but basically internet activism, which also has all of these other names, just refers to anything where it's like use of electronic media and in particular social media in order to kind of get people together and uniting around a cause. So just thinking about some of the early campaigns, like some of the big ones, who remembers this Kony 2012? Yeah. So anyone want to say what it is? I like Jesse's honesty. I don't know what it is, but I remember it. Yeah, okay. Anyone? Who's Kony? Yeah, it has to do with child soldiers. That one, Julie, that's different, but we're going to talk about that one in a minute too. Yeah, so Kony was kind of the leader, kind of a totalitarian leader of Uganda, and basically when this guy, Jason Russell, started this campaign, the idea was he was trying to raise awareness around the fact that this guy was recruiting child soldiers and basically forcing them to fight for him. But it was criticized in part because it didn't really tell the whole story. And also by the time that this guy released this documentary, Kony had actually already left Uganda. And so the actions they were calling for in terms of getting the Ugandan army to deal with it didn't really make sense anymore because he had already left the country. And in fact, the issue they had moved on to kind of trying to rebuild. And yet this guy was still pushing for the Ugandan army to go after him. So that was kind of why it died off. And it was also because it was criticized quite a bit, but also because the guy who did it, he ended up having like a psychotic breakdown shortly afterwards. And I think that also kind of killed the movement. But we're going to take a look. Okay. So wait, sorry, I'm looking at Shalene. Yeah, so there were things basically like were left out just in terms of like the full story in terms of what was going on in Uganda. And it was a little weird. Like if you watch the whole thing, he's got his very young son reacting to some of the like footage and pictures from over there. And it's like, that part really disturbed me because his son is really young and he's got him just looking at really like brutal images kind of as a way to catch people's attention. So that was a little bit sketchy as well. So I want to just have us take a look at just part of the video. So part of what happened with Kony 2012 was they had the documentary and then they did this thing where they were trying to spread awareness. So they called it Cover the Night. And so I want you to just take a look at this and as you're watching, think about like what is happening with this campaign, like what are they trying to do, and how are they trying to mobilize people, and is it effective? Like is it actually is it a good online campaign? So
we are going to make Joseph Kony a household name, not to celebrate him, but to bring his crimes to the light. And we are starting this year, 2012.
When citizens, by the hundreds of thousands, start demanding that our government do something, suddenly it becomes in the national interest of the United States government to respond to this problem.
We've identified the 12 policymakers that could change the game regarding Kony, so we're targeting them. On our website, we've made it easy to write them directly, call them, meet with them, and get their attention. So we are making Kony world news by redefining the propaganda we see all day, every day, that dictates who and what we pay attention to. And that's just what we intend to do. Our goal is to change the conversation of our culture and get people to ask, who is Joseph Kony? We have printed hundreds of thousands of posters, stickers, yard signs, and flyers that are right now, today, being put up in major cities all over the world. Start making Coney famous today, but all of these efforts will culminate on one day, April 20th, when we cover the night. This is the day when we will meet at sundown and blanket every street in every city till the sun comes up. We will be smart and we will be thorough. The rest of the world will go to bed Friday night and wake up to hundreds of thousands of posters demanding justice on every corner.
All right. So, what's going on here? How is that? What's up with that campaign? How are they doing it? Like, what are they trying to do? And is it effective? So Webster says brilliant advertisers. All right. What are they doing? Like, who are they targeting and how? So there's a bit of that vigilante, yeah, vigilante piece there. What else? Okay, so they made his name known, and yeah, and Webster, I think that's important, right? They made the goal known in the first 10 to 15 seconds. Yep. Yeah, go ahead, Jenny.
I was just gonna say, I think part of it too, like, I know personally, I think that they were almost targeting, like, younger activists, because the whole idea of, oh, we're gonna, like, sneak out at night and be super cool and cover the city, that probably, like, spoke to a lot of people who were probably, like, in their high school years, which is where it actually probably mostly hit. Like, I think it was, Shailene was saying that one girl in her school made it, like, her mission to make Coney 2012, like, known. And I think that they probably did a really good job of that. But then, like you said, like, it kind of, like, fizzled out because it was so big. And then all of a sudden it was just kind of like, and now nothing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Shailene?
Yeah, it was really weird. This one girl in my school literally talked to all of our teachers and said, hey, we need to show this video to the class. So she came into all our classrooms and went, this is important, guys. We need to watch it. And she posted it all over her Facebook. It was ridiculous. So we had to take time out of our class to watch a Coney 2012 thing because it was so important to her that we knew about it. And then after the whole viral media sensation happened, she stopped talking about it, which I think was very reflective of what happened with Coney 2012. It was really ironic to see it happen like that.
Yeah, thank you. That's odd, but I guess people, you know, as Emily points out, now you know about it. But I think sometimes people get very excited about particular causes. Webster, go ahead.
Well, and like, just to explain why I'm saying they're brilliant, they made something very exciting with very little information and never actually gave you proper information. So like in the first 15 to 10 seconds, which most people will close the video after that, they stated the exact goal in the name. And then after that, it was just the straight hype train the whole way through, but they never actually like gave a proper description, like what is Joseph Coney? They didn't actually tell you that. They just said, we want him known, we're going to do this and this and this and this, and vigilantism straight up. And so like in terms of that, it's effective. It's the hype train. Yeah, exactly, Emily. But in terms of actual information, proper activism, it's pretty poor. It's almost like an ad campaign from a company making something. So
yeah, okay, so and yeah, I think lots of good points there, right? And clearly the hype train works, you know, for some people, and even so also the whole like we're gonna cover the city with posters, I actually find like from an environmental standpoint is a little problematic. So that's not super duper. But it is that like teen thing, right? Like we're gonna go out at night and we're gonna put posters everywhere and it's gonna be awesome. Yeah, they also got criticized because the plan was to do it on April 20th, which happens to also be the anniversary of a particularly I think it was like some sort of massacre or something going on in Uganda, and also Hitler's birthday, right? So they did get in some trouble for that. And also there were people in Uganda who were saying like, how would you feel if, you know, people in Uganda started making like Osama bin Laden t-shirts, right? Which is basically like, this is what they're doing. They're putting his name and his face on t-shirts and like trying to raise awareness that way. But it is kind of freaky because it's also like a weird publicity thing. So, so I think there were a number of reasons why this was not super great and kind of problematic. But, and yeah, so the date was a poor choice, I think. And yes, I think there's also like what is his personal interest, right? And he seemed to have kind of like taken on the role of like, I'm going to be the white savior and go over there and save the children from Coney. But it was, yeah, so there, I mean, a lot of reasons why this was not great. But yet we all, you know, most of us remember it, right? So, it's interesting that it can still be really effective, but it's also like we don't, not everybody knows exactly what it was about. We just know that it's a thing, right? So, yeah. So I think it's like lots of problematic stuff going on. I want to take a look at another one though. So this is what Julie actually, I think it was right, Julie. Yeah, Julie brought this up, and so this is the Bring Back Our Girls campaign. So I want to show you the video that they used for this and see what you think of this one. All right, so that's the Bring Back Our Girls campaign. So this was a campaign, like I'm not sure who it was, but I believe it was, but it wasn't done in that same Coney way. Sorry, somebody's got a mic on, I think. Sorry, we've got some crazy typing noises. Why can't I find it? There it is. All right. Anyway, yeah. So it was done. I think more so like not by somebody who's trying to go in and save people, but it was also picked up by like Michelle Obama decided that she wanted to be part of this. So it was picked up by some pretty major people, but you don't. It's different, right? You don't have that sense of like the person who made it being really worried about getting credit, right? So. And yeah, and so as Shillian's saying, like you see how you're supposed to help, right? Like they had a step-by-step list, you know, of like, here's how you can go about helping this. And what else did they do that was effective? Like I think Webster's right in saying like they're trying to get evoke some sort of emotion. Julie, did you want to talk?
What I liked is how they gave the girls names. They personalized it, told you what they wanted to become, their aspirations for the future. And in the end, they gave clear directives of how they wanted your help and what you should do.
Yeah, exactly, right? And I think that that's what made that really effective, is like the way that they make these girls into into people, right? So they give names and they tell us like, this is what you're gonna be, like this is what they want to be when they grow up, right? So definitely, I think that's part of what made it so good. Unfortunately, I mean, it wasn't totally effective, right? So this was like, this happened back in, hang on, I want to say like 2012, 2013, but they're still not all back. Some of them have been, some of the girls have been rescued or have been given back or whatever by Boko Haram, but there are still quite a few of them who are still captive. And honestly, like nobody really is doing anything about it, right? So the Nigerian government hasn't done a whole lot. Yeah, I mean, this has been years, right? And they're still missing. They had like a couple were released, and one of them was like one of them had a kid with the captors. Like, so I mean, it was just a pretty awful situation. But there's still, I think, over 100 of them are still missing, right? And it's really not like, even though they had a fairly effective call to action, like it was a good video, sadly, because it's happening in Africa, for the most part, people don't care that much, right? And that's, I mean, that's kind of unfortunately how our world works, that we're like, we've almost been, I think, conditioned to like just not be worried about things that aren't happening in like our immediate vicinity, which is really pretty terrible. But and I think it's, I mean, even the fact that, you know, Michelle Obama was involved and still nothing really has happened, again, speaks volumes about, you know, where we put our priorities in terms of aid, right? Because like these are kids, right? These are young girls. You know, I can't think of a more worthy reason for, you know, a government to, like the US government, for instance, to step in and do something about it, you know? They like to insert themselves into all sorts of other situations. So I don't know, you know, it's like this one is just not important to them. And so I mean, I think Emily, it is a broad call to action, I guess. Yeah. But it's, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what else you would do, right? Like, I'm not sure what would be more effective in that situation. I mean, I think that it is maybe hard to ask people to call on their governments, but it really is that level of an issue, right? It's not like it's we need the government to go and do something, not individual people. Yeah, so in any case, this is October 11th, 2017, and again, Nigerian government expresses commitment to the return of the girls, and yet nothing going on, right? So again, that's kind of a sad reality. And sorry, I'm just looking at the chat too. Yeah, I mean, Shalene, I think that's exactly it, right? Like I don't even think it's underlying tones of racism. I think it's like, it's in Africa and therefore we don't care, right? As horrible as that is, it's like, if it had been in North America, yeah, you better believe that they would have been in there with guns blazing, right? And, but that's just the way that our world works, unfortunately. So, yeah, but yeah, I think absolutely it's racism in big ways. But so, you know, from here, it's not super easy to do a whole lot about Africa, right? And so, you know, I think that digital activism is potentially an avenue for helping things, right? Like for getting involved in things that maybe you wouldn't be able to get involved with otherwise. So often it's referred to as slacktivism, right? Because people feel like it's just lazy person's activism. But there's a lot of actually research on whether it is or is not effective. And so definitely there's this opinion, right? The idea that people are confusing like actually feeding starving people with, just retweeting feed the starving, right? So there's that argument that things like that people feel like they're doing something when they retweet, even though they aren't really. And that's a fairly common argument. But it turns out, if you look at the research, that actually online engagement is pretty powerful in terms of spreading awareness and then keeping a movement alive, right? So in fact, even people who aren't directly involved, people who are just retweeting things, actually are just as important as the people kind of in the center of it in terms of spreading awareness. So it's actually, I think it's important to understand that, there are real effects of this, and it is actually working in many cases. But I would agree with what Emily's saying, right? That often it's like hashtags that, or like hashtags that don't do you any good, right? So we want to make sure that it's being used as like to mobilize and to spread awareness. Not, I guess, like it's a fine line between just like, sharing Pray for Vegas, which is not going to do you any good really, and actually raising awareness about an issue. Because I will say, like, the Black Lives Matter hashtag, that was really important, right? So that hashtag, I don't know if anyone like remembers it happening, but I know that after the things happened in Missouri, right? So after Michael Brown was shot, there was nothing being covered in mainstream media, right? And so I think a day or two after, I saw this on Twitter, because Twitter doesn't have the funky algorithms that, keep things from you. And so I saw people on my Twitter feed using this, like, talking about Ferguson, right? And they were using hashtag Ferguson, and they were using the Black Lives Matter hashtag. And that was the first I saw of it. And so I was reading about like, hey, there's stuff going on in Ferguson. This looks really bad, right? And so I was looking, and I was like, okay, can I see anything on CNN? Like, can I find anything about what's going on down there? And there was nothing for like days, right? It took like it was like a full day after I saw it on Twitter, and I don't think I saw it on Twitter right away. But yeah, so it took quite a while to get past the Facebook algorithms. And like that's, and that's, I think, the only reason why it ended up making national news, because otherwise it would have just been swept under the rug, right? And so that, I think, speaks to the power of social media for, kind of holding people accountable, right? Because it's a little bit harder to cover things up when there are people there, and when anyone can start, I guess, a movement, right? And anyone can bring awareness to something just by having a phone. So I think that's one of the ways that social media is really powerful. Basically, like, there is, like I said, research that shows that that slacktivism and that hashtag activism is actually it's had a lot of really powerful effects. So even, this was looking at the year 2015, but there were so many things that kind of proved how powerful it was that particular year. In terms of, like, there were some cases in universities with racism going on, right? And then with the police brutality. So again, that was kind of the year that really changed things around hashtag activism. And I also really enjoyed this article about how actually spreading your feelings about not liking slacktivism is actually really powerful too, because if you talk about how it's not really effective and how it's kind of a lazy way of doing things, it actually will then, it kind of makes some people feel guilty. So they actually go beyond just retweeting and sharing stuff. So, so the argument, I think, is interesting, right? That if you say, sorry, if you argue against slacktivism, then you actually might do some good by making people actually go out and do something more out of guilt, I guess. And hey, if guilt's gonna work for that, it's all good. So sorry, I'm just taking a look. Yeah, but so basically, lots of kind of powerful bits around the use of social media, right? And there's starting to be some studies around this too. So like if you look at, this is a Pew Research study, and kind of talks about how basically people are, a lot of people are more likely to participate in activism causes online than they do in their face-to-face communities. But also we know that if people connect to social causes online, then they're more likely to also then go out and do things in like the face-to-face world. So again, like lots of positive press on this, I guess. And also, like this stat I think is interesting, right? 48% of young people actually would go out and learn more about a political situation because they saw something on a social network. So it's good, I think, for engaging curiosity. Like how many people in here have looked at a trending hashtag on Twitter or something and like actually gone and looked into it and then realized that it was a cause, or it was something like, you know, a social justice issue? Anyone have that experience? Yeah, right. Like and I think that's like, sometimes it's, you know, it's about one direction. Like that's the thing. Every time it's a hashtag that I don't understand, it's one direction. But I think it has been powerful in terms of, you know, you see something and you're like, that's trending, I should really check that out, right? And so that's, I mean, I think even just that is a really good thing. Yeah, so that's cool, Tara, right? So even just being able to see the Black Lives Matter movement online and be like, hey, what's that? I wonder what's going on here. Yeah. So, and then the other thing I think that's really awesome is live streaming apps. And now live streaming apps aren't always awesome, right? They also have some potentially really bad uses, but live streaming in terms of justice, social justice causes, I think really is very powerful because it kind of like it holds people accountable. It means that, you know, something like police brutality isn't just kind of swept under the rug because somebody might be like actually streaming it live to the internet. I remember during the Black Lives Matter protests in Ferguson, I was watching a live stream from somewhere, and there was like a person who got just yanked into a police van and disappeared. And they couldn't find this person. They're like, where did that person go? But because it had been streamed online and people had seen it, they knew to go and find this person and like try to and track down the people who had, like, because it was law enforcement who had just kind of whisked this person away. And, you know, who knows what would have happened if that hadn't been live streamed and people weren't there to kind of hold those people accountable for it. So, yeah, so I think it's definitely, live streaming can be really useful. The ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, even created, like they made an app that basically, if you use it to capture something like police brutality, it actually uploads straight to their site, so that if the police then, you know, take your phone or make you delete what's on there, it's already been sent to the ACLU, which is pretty cool. Also sad that we need that, really sad that we need that, but that's pretty smart, right? Like that's a pretty good use of something like live streaming. I mean, can they make you delete it? Like, no, but technically, right? Technically, no, but you know, also, if a police officer is very angry and trying to get you to delete something on your phone, I mean, it may be difficult to say no, right? So, and this isn't to say that all law enforcement is bad, like far from it. But I do think in the US, there are like some, especially in the US, also in Canada, right? But in the US, we've seen a lot of evidence of that there are some not great people who do some really horrible things. I mean, we know even in Saskatchewan, right? Like the Starlight tours, right? So the, you know, the thing that that police officers did at times in the past, where they would take, you know, Indigenous people out of the city and drop them off without proper clothing in the middle of winter, right? And as a way to kind of get rid of them, right? So we know that there are bad things that happen here as well. But again, like if somebody has live streaming, it's harder to get away with these things. It's interesting, Shalene. See if you can figure out what it is. That's really interesting to see if they're violating your rights. Like, again, it's sad that we need these things, but I think technology makes some good things possible. And so just, I mean, I linked to them in the weekly plans, but just, I guess my thoughts on this. So I've written about this quite a bit, but basically my stance is, as educators, people are watching what you're doing online. And if you're online and you're not engaging with social justice causes, you're basically telling your students, their parents, your colleagues that these things aren't important, right? And so I know there's often like a hesitance to post things that we consider, you know, controversial online, right? But I think it's important to understand, like, there are a lot of things that you can post online that aren't gonna, like, they're not gonna get you fired. Like, you know, you're not gonna get in trouble from the STF for saying that you don't like racism, right? And if you are, we have a bigger issue. So I think it is important to be speaking out about things, right? And yeah, and I think it's important though, Webster, that we understand that by being silent, that's not being neutral, right? That's supporting the status quo, right? And so I think it's important to understand that it's not really possible to be unbiased, right? You're not going to be neutral as a teacher. And if you are silent and you don't say anything, that doesn't mean you're neutral. It means that you're okay with whatever's going on in the world, right? And you're saying, like, it's fine, I'm not worried about this. So, you know, when I got this, that sticker, right? The sticker that was posted, "It's okay to be white." Somebody sent it to me, right? Like, I had a former student send it to me, and she said, like, "I don't want my name attached to this, but you can post it," right? But like, from my perspective, it's like, I am not sure how that would get you in trouble. I think she probably just didn't want the attention drawn to her. But in a case like that, like, I think it would be very hard for a school system to be like, we're gonna fire you for saying that you don't like this sticker that says it's okay to be white. Like, that's not. I think we need to realize when we're actually just making excuses, and when it really is something that is potentially harmful to your job, right? So that being said, you can read more about it on my website. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the possibilities for, you know, technology and social justice. I think there are lots of them, and I think it's important to know, like, how many different ways that you can get involved. So one of the more basic things is, like, it's just really good for mobilizing, right? So even something like this isn't, you know, radical or anything, but so there's this site called Project Noah, and basically it allows kind of civilian scientists, I guess, to kind of document what they're seeing in their particular environment. So you can take pictures of, you know, nature in your area, and then you post them on there, like, you upload them, and it helps scientists to kind of figure out what's going on in nature, right, and to track where particular species are. And so like, that's a very non-controversial way, and also a way to bring, like, technology into, like, a science class in a pretty cool way, right? So there are sites like that allow you to, like, especially the citizen scientist thing, I think is fairly common. And so that's one example. There's this one as well. There's the Marine Debris Tracker, which is kind of cool. So again, like, it's harnessing the power of lots of people who have mobile phones. And so basically you can report when you see debris in the water system. And this one, I think, maybe is just for oceans possibly, but there are some that are for, like, actual water systems, you know, inland as well. But basically then you're helping them to track, again, where where particular debris is, and then it helps them to know like how the ocean currents are working or whatever. So I think, like, again, that's it's kind of a nice way to bring technology into science and kind of harness the power that we have collectively. This is another one. So this is Space Hive. This is a UK thing, but there are other things, and there are some in Canada as well. But basically, it's a crowdfunding platform for places, right? So if you need, like, if you have a place that needs improvement in some way, you can put your basically you can put a project on there and say, like, I want this money for this thing that I'd like to change in my community. So there are lots of different like sites and tools that allow us to do that as well, kind of to crowdfund for communities. This one too is really super cool. So there have been these with the forest fires that are happening, particularly out west. There are scientists who are trying to map the way that forest fires and like the way that ecosystems recover from forest fires. And so they started this thing where basically you take a picture of what you see in this particular area, and then you post your picture, and then they're able to make like a time lapse of the way that that the area is recovering, which is super cool. But so again, they're using, it's like a way to kind of harness the collective power of people to make science possible without scientists having to go and like constantly be taking pictures. So that's kind of cool as well. And you can go and you can see the time lapse of the recovery if you want, like if you go and look at the site too. And then even like in terms of mobilizing people for elections. So I don't know, has anyone seen the Pick a Premier thing going on in Saskatchewan right now? So it's been going around a bit on social media, and the idea is that the STF is actually encouraging teachers to register to vote in the like the party elections to pick their candidate for both both the Sask Party and the NDP, which is, I have some mixed feelings about, because technically you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to register for two parties. But their idea is, and they're spreading this on social media, the idea that, you know, if like that basically teachers can go and select who's going to be the best candidate for them on either party, so that no matter who wins, like at least it's, you know, it's the best of that, of the possibilities there. And it's been circulating quite a bit, right, on social media, and also at the university, right? But so in the US election, they basically, Facebook did a lot in terms of mobilizing people to vote, right? And so there have been studies that, you know, if you see your friends posting about having voted on Facebook, it makes you more likely to vote. And if you put on Facebook your plan for going to vote, like if you share it with your friends, it makes you more likely to actually go and follow through with your plan. So interesting stats around that, right, in terms of kind of the crowd pressure. But so basically Facebook and Snapchat, like they make filters so that, you know, you could kind of show who you were supporting, right? And it was like a fun way to show that you'd gone out to vote. So they did a lot in terms of that. And even like Facebook made it so that you could register through Facebook to vote really, really easily, which was also kind of interesting. So again, like trying to mobilize through these social networks. So we've got like mobilizing, yeah. Another thing that I think technology is good for is addressing issues that we see, right? So this is one particular example. And this is like a student called, like her name is Martha Payne, and she was a 10-year-old in England when she started this. And basically she started a blog to document the food that she was getting at her school, right? Like, so the lunches that she got as part of her school lunch program. and basically started this blog to show that like the food she was getting was totally not adequate for her health needs, right? And basically saying like, I need better if I'm going to go and learn. And so that was kind of interesting. And so this lady's going to tell you about
Not your average food blog. Hey, I'm Jillian Pensavalli, and this is Buzz60. A 9-year-old girl from Scotland has started her own food blog called Never Seconds. She showcases just how disappointing her school lunches are, and she's gone viral. Check this out. Every day, Martha Payne takes a photo of her lunch, and then she adds her own little commentary. She's not always happy about it, saying, I'm a growing kid, and I need to concentrate all afternoon, and I can't do it on one croquette. Do any of you think you could? No, Martha. I don't even know what a croquette is. From the all-right pizza to macaroni and cheese, that's always good. Martha gives you every detail of her meal. She ranks it on the foodometer, then tells you how many mouthfuls it was, gives it a health rating, and tells you how much it cost her. And she counts how many pieces of hair she's found, which is a number I really hope always stays at 0. She's posted submissions from other students across the globe, and food revolutionary Jamie Oliver has even tweeted his support. Martha, you're awesome! You know, this almost makes me wish that I could go back in time and start having cafeteria food every day, just so that I could be a part of this. Not really. Buzz60, now you know.
So, so this was, you know, this young girl who started like a pretty, you know, significant campaign. But basically, and so she started, she also took like the profits, basically because she was getting people to her site or whatever. And so she started having people donate too, right? And so she ended up raising like a ton of money, which she then gave to like a charity that provided meals for kids, right? So doing some really cool stuff. But then basically her, like the school that she was going to, they told her she wasn't allowed to do this anymore. And basically they were like, you can't share your lunches, like you're bringing us bad press. And so they actually like, they shut her down. And it took, but obviously the internet got angry about it. Right. And so eventually after like pressure from people, including Jamie Oliver, she ended up being able to blog again because, you know, that's what happens when you're on the internet, and that's kind of the magic of the internet. But so like it was a pretty powerful campaign, but also interesting to see how, you know, even though her school tried to shut her down, the internet made it so that wasn't the case. Even just like nice things like this, right? So this is somebody who posted on Reddit and basically was like, hey, I want, you know, my, I have this picture of my mom and I'm hoping that somebody can touch it up or whatever. And because she died and there's this picture and she's got the oxygen thing in her nose or whatever. And basically like had tons and tons of people who responded, right? Like you can see, I mean, just the 200 there. But all of these people who responded and were like, hey, yeah, we'll help you fix this picture. So nice little things like that show you that, you know, the internet is kind of good at addressing issues. Even this girl, so this girl decided to make an app to help students who basically couldn't find anywhere to sit at lunch, right? So this is like a 16-year-old who managed to make an app to solve this issue, right? Which is kind of cool because like I'm not sure that I can make an app without a lot of help. But basically she made it so that people can say like, yes, you can sit with me. And then people could find it on their phone and then they could go and sit with people who were going to be nice to them. So that's kind of cool as well. Again, internet's pretty cool. Internet's kind of amazing. Also, you know, even just addressing issues that are kind of larger cultural issues. So this was a campaign that was put out, pretty amazing, but basically trying to make it so that more girls would be involved in coding and other kind of STEM things. So take a look at this one.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to get into coding, but my cleavage is just so distracting. I can't code because my long eyelashes make it hard to see the screen. I mean, I get lost in them. Plus, it's hard to keep my eyes open with these auburn strands of mink constantly weighing them down.
When I'm not menstruating, I'm ovulating, so there's no time to code. at all. It's super hard to code when every month your insides are ripped from your body in slow motion.
Every hour I have to get to the bathroom to change my tampon. Otherwise, you get toxic shock syndrome. That leads to getting your arms amputated. Obviously, that makes it even harder to code. And my boobs like really prevent me from coding.
I don't even have boobs yet, and they still get in the way. It's crazy.
It's hard to code when you can't stop crying.
Or when you're having mood swings. Like here comes one now.
Totally. Coding is just too rational when I'm this emotional.
So I kind of love that. It's hilarious. But again, like, what a cool way to use the internet to do something totally amazing and spread awesome messages and make the point that it's ridiculous that girls are not able to code, right? But again, like, you know, an ad that maybe wouldn't have gotten a lot of airtime on television, but we can spread it online. And then also, I think, you know, there's the power of the internet to raise awareness about things. So, you know, things like hashtags that we talked about, right? So this is, you know, the Why I Stayed hashtag. And I think there are lots of examples of this, but this is just one, right? But so to raise awareness of why sometimes women stay in abusive relationships, right? Just one example of a hashtag that did raise, I think, quite a bit of awareness. Things like the Me Too and the Yes All Women, other examples of that, right? So there's Me Too, right? This is the more recent one with all of the stories of people who experienced harassment or assaults. Of course, not everything is going to have a totally positive reaction, right? So there was a lot of good that came from Me Too, but also, you know, there were people who were kind of critical of the fact that now you're having women feel like they have to speak out about their, you know, whatever it is that they experienced, and kind of making the point that they shouldn't have to. So, you know, of course, there's always different sides to the issue, right? But I think, you know, even just starting the conversation is really important. Also raising funds, right? Like the internet's really good at raising funds. So, you know, the Ice Bucket Challenge is perhaps the best known of the, I don't know, internet fundraising things. How many of you did the Ice Bucket Challenge? All right. Some people did it. Yes. Lots of people did it. Okay. So, you know, the Ice Bucket Challenge did raise quite a bit of money for ALS, but also there was quite a bit of criticism. So one thing that actually was pointed out was that a lot of people just dumped ice buckets on their head and then didn't actually donate anything. Just they wanted to be involved in the ice bucket part, but not the money part. So that was a bit of a problem. And I think that was like a messaging thing, right? Like where it kind of got lost and it was like, oh, we're just going to dump water. But no, there was a second part to that. And also one of the things actually, interestingly, that was kind of criticized there was that apparently people get donor fatigue. And so basically it's like people have a certain amount of money that they're willing to donate to charity in a year. And if one particular charity kind of monopolizes that, then it just means that all the other charities get less in terms of donations, right? So it's not that people then donate more because they donated to the Ice Bucket Challenge and also other stuff. So there was some kind of, there was criticism around the fact that this kind of cannibalized the charity funding for that year, which I think was kind of interesting too. But it does show you how good the internet is at raising funds for things. This is another really nice one. So this is a video of a bus monitor who basically was like bullied by the kids on her bus. And they put videos out of like basically showing how they were trying to make this bus monitor cry, which is pretty terrible. But then somebody went on, on one of these crowdfunding sites and decided they wanted to give the bus monitor a vacation. And so, of course, it worked really well because the internet's, again, really good at this. And they ended up raising like $700,000 instead of $5,000. So good news, she took her vacation and then also started a charity to be like an anti-bullying charity. So again, like a nice example of the internet being, again, like really good at raising money. And then also I think like building community is something that's good, or that can happen, really well online. The fact guy, I feel like that fat guy. Okay. They threw a party for him. Yeah, right. So like nice things like that, right? Where people are like, this bad thing happened to you on the internet. We will now throw you a party, or we will give you money, or whatever it is, right? Like even recently, the lady who gave Trump's motorcade the finger, right? She was biking by and happened to be biking by Trump's car, and she gave him the finger, and then ended up losing her job over it. But then the internet, the internet helped her out. The internet gave her some money, and I think found her another job. So, again, it's kind of a nice thing, right? Good things can happen. Although also it can be used to raise money for bad things. Does anyone remember the Colton Bushey shooting last summer? Maybe? No? Yes. Excellent. Yeah, so basically, it was an Indigenous man who was with some friends, and basically their truck broke down, and they went onto a farm to try to get some help, and the farm owner shot this guy basically because he was an Indigenous guy basically. And what happened afterwards was that people started a crowdfunding site for the farmer who shot the guy, to raise money for his legal fees. And it was like, I remember seeing it on Facebook, like they had a Facebook page, because it was, I don't remember which crowdfunding site it was, but they ended up shutting it down, luckily. But then they tried to make a new one. Like, it was really obnoxious. And basically, this Facebook page was just like the most racist thing you've ever seen, of people being like, oh, he should have, the problem was he left witnesses and he should have just killed them. Like, it was really awful. It was really, really awful. But basically that was kind of the sentiment around it. And so then of course they're using a crowdfunding site to raise money for this guy. So, so good things and bad things, right? We can raise money for all sorts of things. I mean, it was ridiculous, right? Like they were saying like, oh, they were coming in to do bad things or whatever. But yeah, they were trying to get help because their truck had broken down. And I think, again, we have an example of racism at work. But again, like then people who are like, I want to jump on the racist train and give money to this guy because he shot somebody that I don't like. The internet does not necessarily discern good and bad causes very well. But okay, so building community, I think, is another important one. So this one is a mental health one. And it's basically the Semicolon Project. So the idea was that people who had been depressed or who, had possibly attempted suicide or had been self-injuring, like the idea was you get this semicolon tattoo to show that like your life and your story are not over. And so I think that was kind of a nice way that these people were able to build that kind of community together. And it was kind of so Charlene says she knows people who've gotten the tattoo. Yeah. Right, no, but it was a nice, it's a nice kind of community building thing, right, that was spread online. Or even the, you know, the It Gets Better project, right, which was the like celebrities and other people who were posting videos about their experiences, you know, coming out or being like being a gay man or a gay woman, right, and saying like basically it gets better, that, you know, things aren't always this bad. But that was, again, a nice thing that was done, like that was made possible by the internet, right? Wouldn't have been possible to have that many people sharing their stories without the ability to spread it in this way. And then I think also, you know, just committing like nice acts of kindness, kind of a good thing that we can do online too. And I think that it's important not to forget that as like a thing that, you know, the internet can help us with. So for instance, I mean, I think the guy who had the party thrown for him after he was fat shamed, like that would be one example. This is another one. This is a kid who put up, he was going to have a piano concert. And so he put up a sign, and somebody decided to take a picture of the sign and post it online on Reddit. And basically was like, hey, we should all go to this kid's like front yard piano concert. And then a bunch of people came, which is kind of adorable. So this kid then like had this huge audience in the rain for his little piano concert, which is like super cute. And what a nice like kind thing to do. It's kind of amazing, right? And people had signs for him and everything. And yeah. So again, like something nice that, you know, that the wonders of the internet made possible. Anyone think of any other examples of this? Okay, Justice for Hannah, a local, right? A local hashtag. Yeah, cool. Do you want to explain that one?
That's related to the murder of Hannah Leffler on January 12th, 2015, in the Tom student. And so that was just fighting to get her murderer put in for an adult sentence, which luckily he did. And then also related to the accomplice who was put through court this past fall.
Yeah, so thanks. That's a really good example of something quite, yeah, local. What else? Where did my chat go? Anyone think of any other examples? Kid's birthday who had special needs and no one came. Yeah, okay. And I've seen some like sending cards to people. There are definitely have been instances of that. Anyone else have any memories of anything? Has anyone seen The Happiest Place on the Internet? Just thinking of wonderful things that happen online. I think it's actually called The Happiest Place on the Internet. And when you go to it, and it's like people who took videos, and it looks like they're giving you a hug, which is kind of adorable. People sent him DVDs. Yeah, okay. Yeah, yes. Okay, Jenny, I figured he didn't lose all of his dads. But that's really sweet. I hadn't heard of that one. Somebody sent them Spider-Man comics, also adorable, right? So I think it's nice to have these, like the internet can be really mean, but I think it's really nice also to have examples of positive things and to share those with students so that it's not always like this horrible stuff. You know, even this guy here, so this is a valedictorian in an American school, and he decided to make like a secret Instagram account where he went and he actually posted like a nice note for every single person in his graduating class, and it's like really nice stuff, not just like, I like your hair. Like, it's actually, he wrote really nice long comments about everyone, and it's pretty impressive that he knew that many people, frankly, but kind of cool as well. Yeah, a lot of students and a lot of people to have, that many, like, to say that many nice things about is pretty cool. But again, so I think it's important, if you're talking to students, that you're not just sharing the bad things that happen online, but that you're also focusing on some of the really nice things. So what I wanted to show you is, I guess, just thinking about what this might look like in the classroom. So if you look at, the weekly plans, which I'm about to share with you. Come on, there we go. Okay, so if you look at the weekly plans for today, you'll see there's a lesson in there, like a lesson guide, and also this blank copy of this worksheet. So these are things that I created working with some 7th and 8th grade students, and we actually walked through the process of thinking through what a good social media campaign looked like, and then actually they created their own social media campaigns. So this is just kind of an idea for how you might take this stuff up in the classroom, right? So, the lesson is there, and it basically was had the students look at these campaigns, and then they went and, they talked about what makes a good social media campaign, and what's effective, right? And then I created this activism worksheet. So, and this is something you're welcome to use if you like in your own classroom at some point. But basically, it walks you through creating a social media activism project, right? So, so this is geared towards grade 7 and 8 students, but you could do it as a class project, or you could kind of make the language a little bit more accessible if you wanted to have younger kids use it. I think older kids could use it no problem, but basically it walks you through the whole thing, right? What's the thing you're trying to address? What do you want to do about the issue? What's the goal of your campaign? And then thinking about how are you going to do it, right? What kind of technology are you going to use? What audience are you trying to target? What tools are you planning to use, right? So it goes through the whole kind of process of doing a social media campaign in the classroom. So I just want to take a couple minutes and ask, has anyone done anything like this in school? Did anyone do anything in terms of social media activism? Other than Shalene being forced to watch the Coney thing, but anyone have an experience, or anyone think that this would be something that you might do in a classroom, or how that might work? Jenny, why don't you tell us? Just putting Jenny on the spot here.
I will. I'm just trying to find. I had an article on my phone from it. Now I'm just trying to find it so I don't butcher what they actually did. But basically, my old elementary school, one of their newer teachers is really into the whole online social activism sort of thing. So they created now I'm not going to be able to find it because I just told you guys that I was, they worked with that Understand Us people, and they went around and they basically made this video where they went around and they shared kindness basically to different people around the city, and then they filmed it and they called it Letters to No One. So they wrote all these different letters, and then they handed them out to the people on the street, and basically what it was oh, you are beautiful, you're smart, you're kind, and all of these different things. And then they filmed it and then put it online and basically shared it with the world, which was pretty cool.
Very cool. That's neat. Thank you for sharing that. Wait, Jesse, I don't understand. Your mom had a card. Oh, okay. The end of that sentence was helpful. Like a random card that says you. Okay. So I feel like, we're starting to see a little bit of this. Poster project, grade 2-3 class. Yeah, and I think, Emily, that's right. Like I feel like it would be easy to take a lot of the kinds of things that we do in school and bring them online. Just wondering, like, if anyone, like, what are your thoughts on sharing, like, writing about, I guess, social justice issues online? Like, what are your kind of, is that something that you're comfortable doing, or is that not something we want to do? Just wondering how people are feeling about that. So any of the iffy people want to say why?
You go.
Okay. I was just gonna say, like, sometimes I don't know about like all of the social activism projects, but sometimes I think for me, like, part of it too is it almost like hits too close to home, and so I just would like, I'm one of those people who I'd rather not talk about it than actually say anything about it. So then I just like pretend that I don't know anything exists, and that's basically how I deal with all life's problems.
All right, a solid plan overall. Who else? Somebody else wanted to.
Mine was even towards like when the activism kind of crosses with politics.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people, the first thing they'll say is, "Oh, which party do you support?" And I'm like, well, I don't necessarily support everything from the party or from that campaign. So I like to bring up the topics and start discussions and stuff, but I try not to make it seem like I'm directly affiliated with someone, because I'd rather just, you can judge me based on my own opinions rather than on what I answer towards who do you support type thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, and I think that's fair, right? And I think sometimes we are really just like set on like what end of the political spectrum are you on, and I think maybe we need to move away from that kind of like adherence to that. What does Luke say? So, and okay, so when I see like both of you are saying, it's hard to it's hard to retract things, but I think what Shalene says is really is important, right? That I think it's important that we understand that it's okay to make mistakes, and that as a teacher, you need to have that attitude with your kids, right? Like, because your students are growing up in a world where like everything they're doing is online, right? And so if we give them the message that like there's no coming back if you say something that was a mistake, that's going to be a really hard message for kids, right? Because basically it's like they're screwed, right? And so I think it's important, I think, that we start, even if you're not comfortable posting yourself, like starting to spread the message that like, yeah, we all make mistakes online, but you know what, like you can grow from it. And I think as a society, we need to get better at saying like, it's okay. Yes, we recognize this person said this thing when they were like 15, and great, they've grown from there, right? And I think that that's an important kind of mindset, right? Because it should be okay, and especially as everything is online, like today, it's really everything is out there, right? And so to make students think that it's never ever, like it's not possible ever to move on from something, I think is really a problematic message. And I also think, Kendall, I think that's totally correct, right? And so, but I actually think it's good sometimes to practice, having those opinions online, because it requires you to really be knowledgeable, right? And to plan what you're saying, and to not kind of just do it off the cuff or whatever. But also I think it's possible to, to share opinions and say like, hey, I'm not sure about this yet, so to present things in a way that you're saying like, I actually, I'm not sure if I'm correct and I'd like to open this to discussion, right? So I think there are also ways of saying kind of difficult things in ways that allow for conversation instead of judgment. And Jenny, I think that's totally like what you're saying about, if you're going to ask your students to do it, you need to do it too. And like, that's what I try to model, right? Like I talk about it online and I'm kind of, I'm out there with it. But I definitely think if you're going to ask your students to do it, you need to model that for them. Julie, did you want to say something? I just saw Julie's hand go up. No, we retracted our hand.
No, I'm speaking, sorry.
Oh, okay, now we can hear you.
Yep. I was just saying that when I moved here, one of the things I found that the society was so polite that people don't share their opinions readily. Yep. So even if they perhaps have an opinion, I just don't find that they share it, particularly on issues of race and class and stuff like that. It's very reserved that way.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a good point. I also think that it's a sign of privilege, I think, to be able to say, I'm not going to talk about these issues, right? Like, if the issues affect you in deep ways, and like if you are, being affected by racism or whatever, like it's a lot harder for you to just not say anything because you're trying to defend yourself, right? So people who, like, I know when I've posted about teachers having a responsibility to talk about things online, I've gotten people who are like, if I just want to talk about sports online, that's my right, and I can do that, right? And like, you can't make me talk about these issues. But I think, again, that's a marker of privilege, right? To say like, I can just talk about these light and fluffy things, right? And so it's I think it's exactly what you guys are saying in chat, right? Like it's much easier to be quiet about things when you're not being affected in any way. I also think, when people are affected, absolutely, when people are affected, it can be hard. But that's why I think it's the responsibility of people who maybe aren't affected and who have that privilege to talk about it, right? Like I don't, like for something like, the Me Too campaign, I think it's actually like, it shouldn't fall on people who have been victims of, really awful, sexual assaults or sexual harassments. It should be other people who are also speaking up for it, right? I'm not affected by racism in any sort of major ways, so I can speak up for it because it's not something that's going to be close to home. It might make people upset with me, and it might, I might get people who don't really like me. And I mean, as Luke was saying, right, like sometimes you'll offend people. I've kind of just gotten over offending people because it's like, it's going to happen anyway, probably. And I'd rather say stuff and rather than and find out if you've got an issue with it. I think, yeah. And also, as Shalene's saying, I think you have to do it in a way that makes space for other voices, right? And make space for other voices in in safe ways, right? So, making sure that I am there, speaking up if that's necessary, but also allowing other people to have space to share their experiences. Yeah, exactly, right? And we want to make sure that marginalized voices are amplified rather than not. It's okay, Jenny. We weren't concerned about what you said. It made sense, right? I think that's accurate, right? Like when something hits really close to home, you're in a position that's probably the marginalized position in some way, right? And so if you're not comfortable talking, you shouldn't have to. And there should be people who are willing to speak if you don't want to, if that makes sense. But Shalene, I think it's really important to recognize that too. So I think it's, I guess I would just invite you to think about ways that you can you know, be vocal online in good ways, and to kind of challenge yourself to you know, share things that maybe are a little bit more controversial. And you don't need to share things and have them, like, you don't need to be super opinionated about them. You can just share things and say, like, this is an interesting article, let's consider this point of view, you know. So I would just encourage you to kind of try to step out of your comfort zone in that area, because I think it's an important thing to do. Yeah, so, and we're at time. Okay, so I am going to stop the recording, and